everyone, and welcome to Once Upon a Time at the Oscars.
The show that takes you through every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to today.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
And as I said, welcome, I extended my arms and I whacked my finger on my little stand. That's why there was a brief pause before I started.
Well, the worst thing you could do when you're talking about a movie like this is to hurt your hands.
It's true.
Because you got to have your guard up.
You've got to have your guard up. You don't want to slam your hand against a brick wall in frustration or anything like that, which is kind of what I did there.
How many times do you think he does that in the movie?
6 or 7?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Why do I do that?
Dang. Yeah, I didn't like that scene because I was definitely like, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Like, stop
and
it,
he
buddy.
does.
He does. That's
he
true.
Does indeed.
Hey, we're talking about the champ.
We are.
Now, I think this is true. Are we still in the 1931s or is this 1932?
1931.
1931. So released in 1931, the champ, we'll kind of do an inverse of what we did our last episode. I'll go through the cast, I'll let you handle the nominations.
Sure.
The champ stars Wallace Beery as the titular champ, also known as Andy Purcell. Jackie Cooper, we're going to have a conversation here about Jackie Cooper and the names that he's given in movies, but I'll skip over it for right now. As Dink Purcell.
You'll Skippy over it?
I'll Skippy over it. Skippy 2. Did we make a movie where Skippy was like with dinosaurs?
I think it was Revenge of the Dogs.
The dogs need some vengeance in that movie. That's
Aren't
true.
we so funny?
This is great. Irene Rich as Linda. Roscoe Ailes as...
Roscoe Aites.
Why did I put an L instead of a T?
I don't know.
Well, that's okay because that's
thirsty,
not...
he was hungry.
That's not going to be the... Thank you for that. That's not going to be the funniest part about that name because Roscoe Aites plays a guy named Sponge.
Yeah, he does.
Edward Brophy. Wow, I put as. I was like, Brophy as? Edward Brophy as Tim. Hale Hamilton as Tony. I want to have about a 10-minute conversation about names, and we'll get there in a second. But Kyle, what was this movie nominated for?
This was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director for King Vidor, Best Actor for Wallace Beery, Best Original Story for The Return of Francis Marion, also The Return of Wallace Beery as well.
That's true.
And Jackie Cooper.
Lots
and
of returns.
Of course, Best, or rather, Outstanding Production, as we're still calling it, in the 30s.
And this was on behalf of MGM.
Correctamundo.
So, before we get into it, I felt you wanted to do it, and let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. What are we doing?
Can you name another film with a character named Sponge?
Outside of one that was produced by Nickelodeon Pictures? No. No, I think that's literally it. I just thought about that. I think that's it. Sponge, Champ, and Dink. Those are our main characters.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know what Jackie Cooper is... Here's the thing. Jackie Cooper has suffered a very tragic experience as a child actor, and I don't want to take any of that away from him. However, when he's naming his book, Please Don't Shoot My Dog, I do think he should have renamed it to Please Give Me a Normal Name. Because Skippy Skinner and Dink Purcell...
Dude, I love it. I love like a 1930s Depression era name.
I mean, sure.
I love them.
The problem is that this movie specifically, way more than Skippy, is extremely dramatic. This hinges on the melodrama a good bit. And there's like an actual scene where a grown woman in like a mansion has to be like, honey, I'm worried about Dink. It takes me out of the scene completely.
Does it?
It does.
You know, I think at one point they do use his proper name, though, of Dinkle.
That's not better. That's not good. Like, I sure, I guess. But, you know, if my name is Idiot, don't go. I don't want to be named Id. And then everyone's like, yeah, you know, Idiot over there.
It is certainly better than Idiot, though.
Slightly. Dinkle?
Guys, if you can think of another movie where a main character is called Sponge, shoot us an email at outaaopodcast@gmail.com because I do have one.
Do you?
Yeah. And I want someone
to
answer
this. Is this your double feature?
Absolutely not. No. But I do want someone to try and guess that trivia question. If you get it right, I'll shout you out on the pod.
If you get it right, we here at Once Upon a Time in the Oscars will be happy to fund the costs that go into you changing your name to Sponge.
I'm so hesitant to say yes.
So Kyle's thinking about this. Kyle's looking up, trying to like factor in the cost of what it could be to change your name.
The second you started talking money, I was like, well. Yeah. And even now I'm like, what if someone does this?
Yeah, well.
I could see Bryce just being that guy and just being like, you know what? Let's go with Dink.
Well, here, I'll help you out. What day does this episode air, Kyle?
This is a Friday, the 10th.
Friday the 10th, and the Patreon gets it a day early on the 9th, correct?
At least.
Correct. Okay, great. So as long as you get us this answer by Wednesday, April 8th, then you are in the running to have us fund this for you.
Perfect.
Anytime that we submit this after, if you get your submission after April 8th, unfortunately, the doors have closed. Sorry about it.
But do better.
I'm looking forward, though, to everyone who listens to this episode before April 8th.
I feel like I have to wait to edit this now. What if I do it tonight? Oh, no.
Oh, we'll see. Anyways, so the story of the champ is this. Coming from a large career in the past as a champion of boxing, Andy Purcell is living the later half of his life, always interested in the idea of being a boxer again and fighting for other people, but he can't keep off the booze. He can't keep himself in check to keep himself essentially employed long enough to be in a fight. And if this wasn't enough, his best friend who's helping him get through all this is actually his son, Dink, played by Jackie Cooper. And the movie shows the series of unfortunate events that happen to the champ. Honestly, I don't even want to say unfortunate events. It's the opportunities of like, hey man, here's a fork in the road. And he's like, which one's the wrong one?
Right.
And he picks that every time.
Well, he just goes in reverse.
Yeah, he's like
I don't do decisions.
There's a third one. I'm just going to head back there. And the trouble that he gets himself into in the sense of what is he losing and whether it's things that he owns or his actual son, is this worth it to him to achieve peace in the decisions that he's made or a future where he continues to be a boxer?
Yeah.
And this is the champ. So what did you think about this?
So during the first iteration of the podcast, I was excited for this movie. Like, that's how long I've been looking forward to this, because I was a big fan of Wallace Beery in The Big House. I was a big fan of Jackie Cooper in Skippy. And the idea of getting to see not only both of them in a movie together, which I think is our first example of two best actors appearing in a film together.
Oh, yeah.
Not just getting to see them together, but also seeing a story written by the Big House writer, Frances Marion. I was like, this is going to be so cool. I can't wait.
She knows Wallace Beery in and out, knows how to write for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched this film, and I think I enjoyed it just as much as I expected after anticipating it for 4 years.
I'm trying to think if I felt the same way, because it's not something I was expecting. Like, I wasn't looking forward to this movie specifically. I didn't have anything in general to look forward to. I think the minute that I knew what was happening in the movie is when it happened on screen. I didn't read about it. I didn't do any research. I knew King Vidor had directed it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware of anything prior to that. And I think I'm just like, I'm right down the middle on this one. Maybe slightly above when we talk about ratings, but like I'm right down the middle, and it's fine. I think that there's some moments in this that don't work for me as much as others, but you can't deny the performance that Wallace Beery is giving. You can't deny the performance that Jackie Cooper is giving. And I think that especially the beginning, which is the best place to start, does a very good job of showing the relationship between Dink and Champ. I'm going to try my best to get through this movie saying these names. So Dink is definitely the caretaker in this relationship.
Yeah.
Champ is trying his best to be like, running and training for this fight. And, hey, this is going to be the one. Don't worry about it, kid. But then ultimately letting his son down. Like, there's an interesting scene in the beginning where he's done training and he says, "We've had enough for today, boys. Why don't you head home and, I'll head back too." And he then almost walks into a bar. And Dink sees this, and he's like, "Hey, there's nothing for you in there. That's a bar." And he's like, "Man, I'm an idiot. I was going to try and walk into this. What a fool I am."
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't worry, I'll see you at home."
It's very much like the character in The Big House of, who, me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, again, she knows how to write for Wallace Beery. Just clarify, she, Frances?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't know if this was like a, different
right,
situation.
like the ladybug in A Bug's Life.
Yeah, that's the exact comparison we should be making. You're 100% right. So when this scene happens, you're like, oh, okay, cool. So he has like a little bit of this troubled past, but he's getting better about it. His son called it on it. Great. He's going to be okay. Nope. Immediately, they're like, he just went to another bar. Just immediately after, went directly to a bar. And instead of his son being like, I guess disappointed and like pushing his dad, he kind of like pushes this down inside and is like, well, this is why you're not getting these roles. I say roles, these fights. This is why people don't trust you. And I'll say this. It's hard to feel like this is a bad character or this is a character who's doing bad things when it's Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery and Louis Wolheim, two very difficult actors for me to like root against.
Sure.
Like when he shows up mildly, like not even mildly, like just like a faint whiff of alcohol in his breath to the group or the meeting with the fighting promoters. Mm-hmm. And he's holding himself fine. Like he's like, hey, how are you? Good to see you again. How are you? How's the kids? He's great. And they're like, hey, this guy's a drunk. And I was like, how dare you? This man had one drink and you're going to call him a drunk? So, but of course they're right. Like, you know, if you can't trust this guy in the ring, then there's no point in putting him in there.
Sure.
That makes sense. But throughout this movie, whenever he's making terrible decisions, and he certainly is, I found myself trying to defend him because I like Wallace Beery so much. So the only time that this got very difficult is whenever there's like, hey, my son really likes this horse. Isn't it great that my son loves this horse so much? I was like, oh, no. What are you going to do to the horse?
Where's Norman?
So, is that what he named the horse, Norman?
No. The tribute to Norman Torog.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get there too, unfortunately.
Yep.
He cannot catch a break, Jackie Cooper.
Not with his animals.
So, I remember liking the name that he gave the horse. It wasn't Dink Jr., was it?
Little Champ.
There's something really funny to me about like a horse that is definitely twice the size of Wallace Beery being named Little Champ.
But that's a good point, yeah. The horse used to be named Butterfly.
If anything, I don't like the word used in that. If anything, I think that Wallace Beery should have been known as Little Champ in this movie, and Champ should have been the horse.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where Dink does get a horse. And this kind of lends itself to the second part of this story, which it's not just the struggles that Wallace Beery is facing as Andy Purcell, but it's also the troubled past that kind of resurfaces itself.
Sure.
In what comes for Champ and Dink. And this is kind of a good time for you to take the reins on this and tell us a little bit about what happens at a horse race that they find themselves at.
Yeah, so at this horse race, little Jackie Cooper, Dink, as it were, his horse is entering this race, and during a moment, I guess, where fans get to meet the horses.
You know.
Yeah, just casual. We are introduced to Irene Rich's character, Linda. And Linda has a great introduction where she is meeting a horse named Blue Boy, and this horse is like bucking at her. Like just full on muzzle to her throat in a way, just on the attack. And she is handling it so well. She's like, hey, don't do that to me, sweetie, petting him. And then he's like going to attack her again. And she's like, there, little one. Amazing actress, just based off of that.
I actually did some research on this. That horse was a union buster.
Really?
No.
Oh. Incredible.
Can you imagine if they did the research on that and was like, yeah, that horse was very anti-union?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. Linda, though, she sees... Ryan's gone.
I'm sorry.
She gets fed up with this horse. She doesn't really, but I imagine it works out that way. And makes her way over to Little Champ and little Jackie Cooper. And ultimately, we discover that she is familiar with the Purcell family because she was with the Champ himself, meaning that this is Jackie. This is Dink's mother.
Yeah, there's a scene that happens with Linda where she asks someone that she's with about Dink. When she's like, hey, how old do you think Dink is in this right now? And this to me did seem very unfortunately similar to the Forrest Gump scene where when his son is born, Forrest is like, is he like me? Where that's all I heard when Linda was like, hey, how old do you think this guy is? I was like, oh, okay, she's piecing it together. So obviously you're right. Like we now know that Dink's mom is still very much alive and in the picture. And who's aware of this is the Champ. And he's trying to keep them apart, but he can't. And there's a proposition that comes out of this.
Right. Once Linda discovers that Dink is her son, she has a long conversation with him about his lifestyle and how he's surviving in a way. Because, of course, due to the Champ's lifestyle choices, they are kind of down and out and they're struggling a lot. And he's not going to school. Kind of what she sees as on the path to not the best upbringing.
Right.
Ultimately, she has a proposal where she takes Dink off the champ's hands for, I think she says 6 months initially, or is that what they come to agree on?
That's what they come to agree. No, initially it is presented as 6 months, but even before then, they're like, "Hey, why don't you bring Dink by for a couple play dates, like to hang out?" And he's like, "Hey, no way, that's my kid. We're keeping this separate." And they're like, "Well, money." And Champ's like, "What time should he be there?"
Right. Yeah.
And drops him off. So that's kind of what leads the way to more conversations, and we start seeing Jackie Cooper have this interaction with children. And I'll tell you this, Jackie Cooper is really good with adults, but I think Jackie Cooper acting among other children is where you really see the range.
Yes.
Of you're like, what's Robert De Niro doing next to this kid?
Specifically when he's sitting with the little girl,
yes,
I was like, not only is he a fantastic actor, and then as sad as it is to compare him to another child actor, you just see how he is exponentially more talented. But he's doing like a Wallace Beery impression.
Yes.
And I think that's so cool because, of course, that's his dad. He's going to have mannerisms and a way of carrying himself that is so similar to him.
Yeah.
And he does it perfectly.
Well, he does it perfectly, but also to a point where, like, anything that Wallace Beery says, you're like, yeah, that's the character. But when Dink says it, you're like, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because at one point, and this is before Dink knows that Linda is his mother, at one point his sister sits next to him and says, well, hey, you're my brother. I'm your sister. And I don't know for sure, I have to go back and look, whether Jackie Cooper looks at the camera or not, but he kind of faces the camera and he's like, this dame is nuts.
Yeah, he does the like Looney Tunes thing where he covers his face so she can't see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he does kind of look at the camera and do like the whirling.
Yeah, the whoo-hoo.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because he is acting circles around these kids, but also his like style, and this very much carries itself over from Skippy, is that this kid is talking and behaving the way that a kid should not be talking or behaving.
And dressing.
And dressing.
Yeah, everything.
Not as much of a focus in the champ as Skippy, but certainly him matching Wallace Beery's like tone and the way he talks. You're right. Like he's an adult. And I think that's where this movie kind of stands out a bit, is no one had to provoke him to be getting any kind of emotion in this. And unfortunately, we have talked about it and we will be there again in a little bit here. And I think this scene is a good testament of the natural acting ability that he possesses. Not just that he can keep up with someone like Wallace Beery, especially given some things that happen on set with them, but more so he can hold his own and above with other children actors, right? He's not just acting circles around them like, look how bad you are, but you see the clear difference of day and night of like how children actors normally were versus like this kid.
Yeah.
And I thought that scene was great, and that lent itself to Linda having more of a conversation, revealing to Dink that that she is his mother, and giving him some things to think about. And then that kind of lends itself to, okay, yep, I had too much fun with Dink. I think this is a really good lifestyle for him to have now, so we need to get him out of the slums and living with us for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
And that is the proposition that is given. Is it her butler or her husband?
I think it's her husband.
Okay. Well, this man's in a suit, and the way he acts is definitely like, Mr. Purcell, I'd like a word. Like, it feels very like Butler-esque, so maybe that's my confusion. But he has a conversation with Wallace Beery of, hey, we need to talk about Dink. Which would have been a great name for this movie, by the way.
We need to talk about
Dink. Also a great name for this episode because we need to talk about the name Dink. He sits him down at a bar and he's like, look, I know we originally said this was like a one-off kind of play date thing, maybe every other week. Now it's like a 6-month thing. Like, give us Dink for 6 months and we'll take him off your hands. And there's money involved. And I don't remember the money that's given, but like obviously it's an exponential amount.
Right. But also like this is good for him. They do promote it that way as well.
Right, exactly. Like this is going to be good for him. Don't worry about it. Like you'll have all the time you need to get yourself clean and everything, which of course you give a alcoholic gambling addict all this money in 6 months and you think he's going to get clean. Good for you.
Right.
That's not going to happen. And it doesn't. You know, we see Wallace Beery like go further down the chain here and losing himself more and more to this. And I want to ask you how you felt about Wallace Beery in this movie, because ultimately he's great. He's very good.
He is.
But to me, this is kind of like a performance that's building up to a certain moment. And I think he's incredible in that moment. But then otherwise, everything else feels like, well, hey, here's the part where I continue to be a drunk. Here's the part where I continue to be a gambling addict. Here's the here's the part where I don't have a second thought about maybe not doing something. There's a meal or a scene where he has a meal with Dink, the champ does. And he can now afford to take him out and tell him about this 6-month sabbatical that he's about to take. And they have like this really nice steak dinner. And he's talking about like the horse and everything. He's gambled on the horse. He's like, hey, I'm betting the horse. I'm not betting on the horse. I'm betting the horse that this is going to happen. And if I lose, you can have the horse. And he has to like time after time break his son's heart of not just, I'm not getting the job. I'm not getting better in life, but also the thing that you love the most, little champ, I'm going to bet him away.
Yeah.
And you start seeing like Dink kind of like fall out of love with his father, but ultimately he comes back to him. And I think my criticism of this movie a little bit is that Wallace Beery is given the arc, but that arc comes towards the very end of the movie, and we don't see a lot of like reflection of like him internalizing like, am I doing the right thing for my son? Is this something I really want to do? You see it more driven by like, well, I am going to get paid for this, and I think that's probably the right call.
Right.
So you see that like insidious nature being fed rather than like the paternal instinct.
I would say it's not until close to the second half that you really see some range in this character.
Correct.
And not even in his skill as an actor, but what this character is able to portray. Because it really is, like you said, him just playing a drunk.
Yes.
But once he gets arrested and he's in prison, this is right as he's trying to push Dink to go stay with his mother.
Right.
Dink visits him in the jail cell, and the champ is like, go. You need to go. It's
Yes, that's the change for me.
And of course, it's not a, hey, this is good for you. You'll get to go to school. You'll get to be around other kids your age. This is, I don't want you around anymore. I don't like you anymore.
This is not a, he's definitely trying to drive him away.
Yes.
Not just physically, but also emotionally. Like, I don't want you anymore. So if you hate me, then that's the drive you need to be somewhere else and be a better person.
Right.
Because I'm poisonous.
Right. And this scene climaxes with the champ slapping Dink through the bars and knocking him down. And of course, Dink is like, okay, fine. I can't believe you did that. I'm heartbroken. I'm tore up. What else am I going to do, though, if this is what it's come down to?
Yeah.
And made light of it at the beginning of the episode, but this is the scene where the champ, distraught with what he's done to his son, starts punching the wall, and he's like, I can't believe I hit my kid.
Yeah.
And this was pretty shocking for me because it's maybe the first time we've seen blood.
I know silence sucks for you when editing this, but I'm thinking about that.
I can't remember. I think even if it's not the first time, it's so rare that it does happen that this was shocking.
Oh my God, is it?
I think it might be.
I think it is.
Yeah, if there's anything at all, maybe in like Wings, like at the plane crash at the end. Oh, there's definitely some blood there.
Okay, yeah,
in the planes.
There's a plane crash, of course.
Yeah, but yeah, still very shocking, to see as he's punching the wall, his knuckles start to bleed, and it leaves some blood on the wall, and his cellmate is like, "Champ, stop! You're gonna hurt yourself, and you've got a fight coming up." And this is where I think Wallace Beery's character turns.
Yes,
and you get to see more than just him playing a drunk, which he does very well. Early on in the film, where Dink has to help him change his clothes, and he's like pulling his tie over his face, and like, he kind of gets him in the pig nose image. It's very funny. It's very silly.
Yeah, and it is a one-note character in that sense up until that point, right. The alcoholic that he's playing. But the thing that is interesting about it is you can kind of see the vision of like, he's not just an alcoholic and doesn't feel bad for this. You've seen that he's made peace with it. So the way that he talks to his son whenever he, hey, Dad, they took my horse. Why'd they take my horse? It's because I betted him away, son.
Right.
And they took him. But don't worry, I'll get him back. And Dink has this slow, like, walk, almost Charlie Brown-esque, to a curb and sits down. And the champ tries to console him and make him feel better. And that's kind of when I started realizing that character is just outwardly expressing to the kid what he already knows and made peace with. Which is like, hey, why aren't you smiling? Things will get better. Don't worry. They'll get better. And he has to believe that to himself. So he's trying to convince that to his son, too, because he ultimately believes that like things are going to get better.
Right.
Nothing has proven that, but he ultimately thinks that. Like, hey, don't worry, we'll find the money and I'll give him back. It's not a big deal. And not even like I realized I did something wrong. I'm sorry, man. It's more like, why are you glum? Like, we'll make it work. It's fine. And like, that's interesting. But to your point, like, he has such a different range in the back half of this movie, or really the back, like, maybe quarter. It's not fully the half, but that scene that you're talking about in the jail cell is really the kind of awakening for him of, I need to change this. I need to make a change. I need to do something different with my life. And that's when I think the movie got much more interesting for me, because then he has that fight that he's looking forward to, but he trains seriously.
Right. Well, it's once he sees Dink again after he stayed with his mother, and he started to, like, his life has started to improve. He's dressing better. You can tell he's eating better, and he's just doing well in general. That inspires the champ. He's like, you know what? This is what it's all about. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to actually train. I'm going to lay off the drink. I'm going to stop gambling. I'm going to do what's right for my son. And before the fight, this was one of my favorite scenes where he does meet back up with Dink, and he tells him all of this. And he like slips on boxing gloves onto Dink, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to train. Things are going to be great." And in the excitement of this entire scene, the champ punches a speed bag.
Yeah,
and he hits it so hard it flies off the mount through the window.
What?
Breaks the window. Do you remember that?
I remember him punching it, but I don't remember the window being broken.
It flies right through the window. And he just turns and he goes, "I broke the window." And right after he says that, Dink punches him in the mouth, just unprovoked. God, the rapidness of that scene. Punch, glass shatter, shocked. "I broke the window." Punch in the mouth. It's so funny, man.
I do remember that specifically because like it almost like I know what you're talking about with the speed, because the way he hits that and then immediately turns around and starts speaking, like I was like, did he just hit that? What happened?
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell. This is a good time to start talking about what happened behind the scenes with all this, and a lot happened behind the scenes with this. So specifically, I meant to mention this earlier, but we talked about the nominations behind this movie. A cool thing about The Champ specifically, it's the only Best Picture nominee this year to have any acting nominations.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting.
Of everything else that we're talking about, there's no other movie that was nominated this year that has an acting nomination.
Fascinating.
And it's kind of crazy that I mean, testament to what you said earlier, like this has the first movie or Academy movie where we had two, was it actor winners or actor nominees?
Nominees.
Acting nominees who have acted together in Wallace Beery and Jackie Cooper. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that if you're going to have a movie that stands out above the rest in terms of acting nominations, might as well be the one that features two Best Picture or Best Actor nominees. So that's one. I thought that was really interesting. Two, we're going to keep talking about Wallace Beery and Jackie Cooper for a minute. I want to talk about the end of this movie, but I think we should talk about this first. And it's the fact that Wallace Beery did not get along with Jackie Cooper.
Yeah, and specifically I read that Jackie Cooper thought that Beery was trying to upstage him throughout most of it.
He accused him of upstaging him. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So Cooper accused Beery of upstaging him, and he said this was due to jealousy. Like
Beery was jealous?
That Beery was jealous of Jackie Cooper.
This kid.
Look,
just wild.
You get one acting nomination, and you fall asleep during one ceremony. And you get the biggest head, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, that being said, I do think that a part of this is on Wallace Beery. Because Beery had also, after this movie, and maybe this is because of his experience with Cooper, stipulated in a clause with MGM in his contract that prohibited child actors from having a close-up in his films.
Really?
So, any film with Wallace Beery from that point on to where a child actor was in there, they couldn't have a close-up.
Wow.
And to me, that's a little different than being like, I won't star with like children actors and I won't act with like children actors. Because that's one thing. Yeah. But to say like they can be in the movie and I'll act alongside them, but if they have a close-up and they take that from me, I'm not interested. That to me feeds a bit of what Jackie Cooper is saying.
Sure.
Where it is the jealousy of like, well, they're getting too much like screen time that I'm not in it too.
Yeah.
So I think he has a point there, unfortunately.
And Barry does tend to make these types of clauses in his contracts. He had a similar one where he had to be paid like $5 more than a cat just screamed. $5 more than
Wallace Beery outside.
Give me my $5. $5 more than anybody else on the MGM lot.
I know this was a lot back then, but there is something really funny to me about like Chris Pratt walking around and he's like, how much is Zoe Saldana making in this movie? As much as you are, Chris. Give me $5.
Yeah.
Right now.
I need $5 more. I'm going to get a foot long. You can't even make that joke anymore. It doesn't exist.
$5?
$5 foot long.
I'm sorry. I did that completely wrong. I was going to be like $5? $5 foot long?
That's the one.
Gimme. I don't remember the part of it is after that.
That Quiznos subs.
Oh my God. We're going to talk off pod about Quiznos subs. It's so interesting that like this happened because you would want to say, okay, well, Wallace Beery isn't a team player. Like people don't like working with him. Frances Marion not only wrote like, Wallace Beery's part in The Big House, she wrote The Champ for Wallace Beery.
Yeah.
Like she wrote this script for him specifically. So this is a scenario where she understands his character so well, maybe good or bad, that she knows, hey, this has got to be Wallace Beery and I'm going to write him this way.
Yeah. And, it's funny that there was such tension on the set between Cooper and Beery because they do appear in many films after this together because they were the chemistry on screen was so interesting or engaging.
And that's the thing that really kills me is that when you're watching this movie, you can't be like, oh, these guys were beefing on set. They're really good together.
They're fantastic.
And I really appreciated their role or their performances against each other in that. And that makes the behind the scenes stuff so interesting. I would almost venture to say it's even more interesting to me that he continued working with Jackie Cooper after putting that clause in his contract, because then that almost seems like, well, hey, I have this clause in my contract that says that you can't have a close-up and you're a Best Actor nominee, and I'm going to make sure that you don't have that time.
I really want to read Please Don't Shoot My Dog. Because I've got to get to a point in my life where I don't laugh every time I say that, but also... Yeah, I just feel like there's so many interesting stories specifically around like a child actor during this time that I want to know more about.
I mean, I agree, and I would like to also borrow your copy of Please Don't Shoot My Dog when, not today.
Nope.
That day is not today. I like to read that because I think that there is... I don't like choosing sides when I read stuff like this.
Sure.
And especially with Wallace Beery, as I told you with the movie, I'm just like, leave him alone.
Yeah.
But like a lot of what Jackie Cooper is accusing Wallace Beery of makes a bit of sense when you read between the lines of everything else that happened here. However, the hits don't stop coming for Jackie Cooper in this movie.
No, they don't.
Because anyone who is unfamiliar with Jackie Cooper, we previously spoke about him in our Skippy episode. And the references to Please Don't Shoot My Dog stems from an experience that, I almost call him Skippy, Jackie Cooper had on the set of Skippy, where the director... his uncle, Norman Torog, had an assistant come over and pretend to shoot and kill Jackie Cooper's dog to get a performance out of him.
Right.
To a point where they had to sedate him because he was too emotional.
Yep.
Imagine why. I'm so glad that Jackie Cooper was able to put that behind him and go onto the set of The Champ and completely forget that happened. Psych, King Vidor.
Oh, no.
Did you know this?
I don't think so. I thought we were just going to talk about how something bad happens to his horse.
Oh, no, this is behind the scenes.
Continue.
King Vidor, the director of The Champ, fired an assistant director that Cooper was so fond of in effort to get a performance out of him.
Oh, my God.
And after they cut, Vidor, and I'm using quotes here, audience, rehired the assistant director, who was his last name was Golden, to reward Cooper's performance.
What are we doing?
This is the second straight movie that Jackie Cooper has appeared in the Academy Awards where his performance is hindered on something that happened behind the scenes to traumatize him. Because one is to see the death of your dog, right? And that's like, a horrible thing. I'm not downplaying that whatsoever. Another is that this child, who presumably by this time understands the business and understands that like people have jobs and everything, and that you're the reason that his job is no longer secure and he's gone.
What are we doing?
We are traumatizing children. And it is crazy to me that this has happened not just 2 times in a row, but like year after year.
Yeah.
In the 4th and the 5th Academy Awards for Jackie Cooper. And presumably, and this is a good time to kick back into the story, the performance or the scene that they want to get this performance out of him on is towards the end of this movie. Now, the fight happens with the champ, and he fights, is it the champion of Mexico?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fights a champion of Mexico and has this fight. I do want to say this. We talked previously about Bad Girl, and there's a scene where in Bad Girl, Eddie becomes a prize fighter.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I thought these shots in Bad Girl of the fighting were pretty good. Because like the camera's in the ring and you can see like the shots coming out and you can see the audience in the background.
Yeah.
Like really high up, not just like, we have 20 people in a room, but like we put hundreds of people in this room. And I thought that was really well directed. I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of the fight scenes in The Champ.
Really?
I'm not.
Wow.
And I think to me, there's something about the performance that was given by Beery and whoever was playing the Champ in Mexico, to where the fighting just wasn't very like believable. It kind of felt like they were mostly like slapping hands a bit, whereas in Bad Girl, it felt like you could feel the shots.
Okay.
A bit more.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily mean like where the camera was, and I hate that. Like, granted, I felt way more immersed into it with Bad Girl, but there's something about the performance that was coming out of Beery and his opponent that, to me, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel...
I think in Bad Girl, it feels like the fight was very choreographed.
Correct.
So that you were, if a punch was supposed to land, like they presented it that way.
Correct.
Where in this one, while I do love all of the shots and the setups and the angles and everything, I think that they just kind of sent both the fighters in and said, just wail on each other.
Correct. That's exactly right. I mean, we had just watched City Lights with the Discord group, and I felt like City Lights had a bit more of a choreograph to that.
That certainly required a lot of choreography.
Correct. So maybe it's leading up to this, like my expectations of like, and also this is the first time we see him in ring boxing, and we're at we're at like minute. I mean, I have a 90-minute movie. We're at like minute 80.
That is kind of my favorite thing about a lot of boxing movies, is when it's not until the very end that you actually see some boxing.
Which is fine, but it's a big build up to it, right? And then when you're like, oh, this guy's the champ. He's the champ? Sick. And he gets in the ring and you're like, oh, these guys are slapping each other.
Yeah,
like this doesn't look as...
Like those videos of a turtle slapping the other turtle's face.
It's like a mating thing, right? Yeah, no, I have seen that. I told it to Taylor and she's like, what? I'll like do it to her cheeks and she's like, okay.
I do the same thing. But she knows.
Oh, but she knows. Taylor does now too. It's like, turtles do it. It's fine.
Okay.
So the ending, not the ending, but like this scene to me, I don't want to say it took me out of it, but it was definitely kind of like oh, here we go. All right. It's the big fight. Let's get it.
Yeah.
And then the fight happens. You're like, oh. But I will say this, the camera angle and the shots that they get of them retreating to their corners, I thought that was fantastic. Like the acting in between was great.
Yeah.
I just would have liked a little more intentionality in the either choreograph or like at least the way that it looked when they were fighting.
Right.
Because this is a previous champ and a current champ of Mexico. So it should not be like we found two guys off the street and here they go.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. One thing that feels very of the time during this is right before the fight starts, there is a mention of Beery's heart, or the champ's heart, rather.
Yes. Your heart can't take it.
Yeah, and it's I wish that this was just something that was presented earlier in the film. Next episode, we'll be covering Aerosmith, and there's a fantastic foreshadowing moment in that movie that we go pretty in depth on. I wish there was more of that here. Right before the fight takes place, the doctor says, hey, your heart can't handle it.
Right.
And from that moment on, you're like, oh, okay, I know how the movie's going to end. And maybe that's a cliche that didn't exist yet during this time period. And, a modern audience member of 1931 wouldn't have been able to pick up on that detail. But, I mean, I'm sure you, just like me, you knew what was coming at that point.
I did.
So that kind of took away from the excitement of the fight because I felt like it was spoiled for me. But, yeah, this fight takes place, and by the end of it... Did the champ even win? The champ did win, right?
He did.
Yeah, it didn't even feel like he won.
There's a scene where he has like kind of almost a knockout where he's knocked out.
Right.
But he gets right when they're about to say 10, the bell rings to end the round. So he survives that. And then didn't love this. I mean, it's fine. Like it serves its point in the story. But then they're like, how's he going to do this? I mean, he has barely anything in him. I guess just try, champ. And he goes out there and just like clocks him and he just knocks out and that's it. And
he falls as well. So it was like that last punch that he had left.
The very last punch that he had in him did the win. So he wins and he gets to celebrate with Dink and everything in the ring, and then they're walking out, and he gets to say something to Dink, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was like, we did good, kid, like, great job. And then he'll like pull his assistant next to him aside, and he was like, I'm not doing good.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get me in the back right now. And that's when he collapses, and he has a medical team that takes him into a room specifically, and Jackie Cooper, Dink, gets to walk in and see how he's doing after he's passed, or as he's passing.
Yeah.
And presumably this is the scene that was filmed for Jackie Cooper that they needed to get a performance out of, because he is distraught.
Yeah.
In this.
I do like the champ's last line. It's a callback again to him telling Dink to give me a smile.
Yeah.
And I believe his very last words, and I love the way he gives it. He just says, keep it. And it feels like a last breath moment, which I don't feel like we get a lot of well-done death scenes in these movies.
Right.
They're always very throwaway moments, but he does have this very touching and effective moment. And yeah, then Jackie Cooper gets a moment where he really gets to showcase his acting abilities, and it's a shame that presumably that comes from that awful behind-the-scenes trivia fact of King Vidor getting his Best Director nomination, I guess.
It bothers me because I mean, I don't want to say it's working, but like
right.
that King Vidor saw what Norman Torog did the year prior and was like, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
He's like, let me try that. And he tried it. And then not only did it work in terms of getting that performance, he got the nomination.
Right.
Like, so he's following in the footsteps of Norman Torog in that sense. So I don't love that the first reaction that we're seeing in history to this is, hey, it worked. Cool. Let me try that.
Right.
And I'm not entirely sure, and I don't really want to spoil myself or the audience in terms of whether we see Jackie Cooper back or to what degree we see Jackie Cooper back. But I really hope this is not a trend that we see with Jackie or any child actors moving forward.
Right.
But, and here's the question that I have. I think we'll have an interesting conversation coming up here in a little bit in the coming episodes where we get to talk to some people about like pre-code specifically, right? And I wonder what changes off camera along with what changes on camera. And I have some questions about that I'm really interested in the answers.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a black cloud that hangs over this. Granted, no one was fake murdered. So I guess that's a plus, but still we are playing with the emotions of children in order to get a performance out of them, which bothers me because like clearly Jackie Cooper's doing a great job in this movie.
Yeah.
Like not just with the adults, but like with children, you can see like the clear difference in like his acting style to where I don't think you needed this. I don't think that you needed to like go to performance out of him in order to get him into tears.
Well, and it's such a bummer that the 2 times now we've seen Jackie Cooper, he's had these great performances, but they've also used these awful techniques. How awful would it be if it's like, yeah, he needed that? You know, I hate saying that, but I don't have anything to compare it to of him not being completely traumatized on a set to get that kind of performance.
Yeah, it just, it doesn't make sense. It's not a good look, but I mean, it's also one of those things where I guess this happened back then and that sucks and that's a terrible thing. We have to move forward with it. It's definitely not to something on the level of something like a Trader Horn or, you know, well, not just Trader Horn in that sense, but it's still kind of a black cloud of like the behind the scenes thing that happens with this. And when you partner what happened with Jackie Cooper when it comes to King Vidor and Norman Torog, essentially torturing this child.
Yeah.
It also sucks to hear that like there's things like the Wallace Beery clause that like stopped children like Jackie Cooper, actually exactly Jackie Cooper, from getting that solo screen time, the close up on their face because of this clause.
Yeah.
So it does paint child actors and their experiences that they have on set in a very different light.
Yeah, I wonder how much that clause affected his career moving forward. Because
that's another thing.
Again, he appeared in so many films with Beery, but with that clause working against him, who's to say? Yeah. This scene, though, in particular, and Jackie Cooper's performance, it's really interesting. And when I was first watching it, it kind of didn't vibe with me right away. I didn't fully understand what I was seeing because he does this thing where he is completely devastated by the loss of the champ.
Right.
And he just keeps wailing, I want the champ. I want the champ, and tears are streaming down his face.
Yeah.
But then anytime one of the champ's friends or even Dink's friends come to comfort him, he kind of puts a fake smile on and he's like, no, yeah, I know. Everything will be all right. Pat, pat on the back. And then he walks away and goes right back into, but I want the champ.
Yeah.
And it's like he has to put up this wall and display this masculine energy that I think he really picked up from the champ to show that like he's strong, he's brave, he's tough. And there's a lot of moments in this movie leading up to this as well where there's mention of women or girls, and he's like, no, we don't need any of that. We're men. And you really see him displaying like that lesson that he's picked up from the champ here. So that kind of back and forth of him crying, but then turning into, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. Everything's good, man. Crying again. It really threw me for a loop. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, it felt, I think it happened one too many times for me where I was like, okay, there's something behind this, but I can't figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Because I caught that too, but like they're still in the room. So it's not like, hey, I just didn't want them to see me act that way.
Right.
Like, when I'm in a room by myself, then I'll break down. It really was kind of like just him like cycling in and out of like this grief.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I wonder if that was like the kid in him.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, they're still in the room, but whatever. I'm a kid. I'm doing my best.
It's almost like turning his back and he's like, cool, it's gone. And then turning back away, he's like, oh, he's still here.
Yeah. Putting his hand in front of his face. And
yeah, this game is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. To me, it felt like it was just... It was tough for me to remove myself from the movies that this has inspired, right? This isn't one of... Well, I won't say it because it might be your double feature. I don't want to do that to you.
It's definitely not. You can go ahead.
You think so?
100% guarantee.
There's movies like The Wrestler, like Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler, that this has a clear comparison to.
Yeah. That
I think kind of lend itself to this story of one last fight and does the fighter live at the end of this?
Yeah.
That this movie has clearly inspired. And this is a arc that we have seen in many other movies, and it stemmed from something like this. So it's tough to, put yourself in this mindset of like, okay, let me pretend like I haven't seen this a couple times before and compare this to other performances and moments. Has this landed better? And, sometimes we talk about the whole, like, is it better to see something or have it alluded to? We'll talk next week about the idea of when something is alluded to, whether this happened or not. And I think that the idea of whether something is better told off or on camera is interesting because something like The Wrestler, which you've seen.
Yes. Yeah.
So the final shot of The Wrestler has this idea of what happens after this shot. What is the thing that happens after this shot and the camera turns off? That I kind of think that this scenario of someone dying after their like final performance in the ring and like the big win, so to speak, is much better told off camera. Because on camera, you're just kind of like, okay, yep, this happened, got it.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel myself as emotionally connected to it, even with Jackie Cooper's fantastic portrayal. But that being said, I don't think that him crying over the loss of his father and the champ was what convinced me that Jackie Cooper was a great actor in this.
Sure.
I think everything leading up to that was like, okay, now here's where he has to lay on the waterworks.
Yeah.
And afterwards I was like, fine. Like that was not it did not tip me one way or the other of his performance style, which makes it even more frustrating to hear that like directors have to feel like they have to get that performance out of him. Because I think he's doing an incredible job as is.
I agree.
So I can't say that this ending like really lasted with me emotionally, but if anything, the passing of Wallace Beery and like you said, that final line that he has of like, keep it, like that just felt very like intentional and meaningful, but solely to him and not like to the character.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was really, really strong and I liked that. But then everything that happened afterwards, I was like, okay, yes, this is what has to happen. I didn't feel myself as emotionally connected. Not to say the movie isn't good or impactful in that sense, but I found myself having difficulty pulling myself out of what I know this has inspired.
Sure, yeah. And I think just the way that was written of him putting up a guard and then dropping the guard and putting it up and dropping it, it just didn't work for me that well. He does a good job with it, and I get what they're trying to display. It just didn't work for me. And ultimately, this ends with the door for the locker room opening, and it's
Linda.
Linda, thank you. His mother. And this is the moment he just lets go. And I think that's kind of interesting because this is the moment he's been raised by his father his whole life. He has this very like strong ties to just male relationships in general, and this is the moment where he kind of lets that go at the time where he needs to do that the most, because he has lost the most important male figure in his life, and he walks directly to his mother, and I think he calls her mom for the first time.
He does. And
she scoops him up, takes him away as Go to Sleep Little Baby plays as the end title screen pops up.
You know, it's interesting because I feel like as good as the relationship was between the champ and Dink, can't believe I'm saying that. That's why his name shouldn't be Dink. As good as the relationship was, I think that having Linda in his life helps him regulate his emotions. So maybe that whole, like, you know, hey, everything's fine, but also I want the champ. Maybe the meaning of that is how he does turn himself over and kind of does allow himself to be emotional and like fully feel everything when he sees his mom.
Yeah.
Because that's the reminder, like, I can do that, but I couldn't do that with my father.
Right. And I think overall that kind of examining of masculinity is one of the best things to come out of this movie, because even outside of him having this kind of strange, not strange, but very strong tie to like masculine and male relationships, you get to see a main character who is very self-aware of like what his lifestyle is doing, and that main character is a man. And I feel like you don't see a lot of that during this time period, of a very flawed male character who is like, I know that I am flawed, and I need to change this. I need to correct it.
Yeah, not really. I mean, sorry, you're correct. You really don't see that. I think it's interesting because you see that in supporting characters, specifically Wallace Beery. I think you can kind of see him in the big house having that realization and like taking the, you know, bullet, so to speak, for that. But he's not the lead, and the movie doesn't follow that specifically. So I thought that was a nice touch to make him the lead. And Francis Marion knowing that he can do this.
Yes, and that's the interesting thing too, is that Wallace Beery's character in the big house does kind of have this coming around and realizing his flaws in the same way that it exists in this movie. And both of those times it is written by a woman. Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. And I like that about Francis Marion's writing style and her choices there. Also very cool that this was nominated, I think so far of the movies we've covered this year, and really a few movies back, the first time an original story is nominated for Best Picture. Usually it's adapted. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm very happy to see this. I hope it continues. You know, we've talked a lot about directors, whether it be King Vidor or Louis Milestone or Frank Borzage, where we see them a number of times. John Ford, that we're going to be talking about here coming up. I'm very excited about Francis Marion because I'm that's one of the first writers that we've talked about where I'm like, I've really enjoyed everything we've gotten from Francis Marion so far. So I hope that continues.
Did you know that she's the first person, not just woman, first person to win 2 Academy Awards for writing?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. We need to be talking about Francis Marion way more.
I think so too.
Not just for achievements, but also in the work that she's doing, because this is great stuff.
Yeah, I wanna find if there's a biography on her or something. She's one of the more interesting members of the industry at this time period. That's not like an actor or a director.
Oh, that's interesting. I just found there is one.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's called "Please Don't Shoot Jackie Cooper's Dog."
Oh no. The sequel?
The sequel. She wrote it. No, I'm also interested if that happens. I didn't look that up. I just wanted to kind of save our sentiment a little bit because we were getting down. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with this?
There's a couple of highlights of like who we'll see again. King Vidor gets nominated a lot. He was nominated for The Crowd at the first Academy Awards. Hallelujah, The Citadel, War and Peace. He's directed 6 Academy-nominated performances, so that's kind of his big thing. He gets performances out of actors. Bummer.
Good or bad.
Right. He did receive an honorary Academy Award in 1979 for his contribution to film. And then in 2020, this is so recent, at the 70th Berlin International Film Fest, they did a tribute screening of like 30 of his movies, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a marathon.
Yeah, it is. And then the only other thing I really have is this movie was remade in 1979, and it starred Jon Voight and Rick Schrader.
Jon Voight presumably playing the Wallace Beery character.
Correct. Yeah.
Can't say I like that change.
Yeah. I like Jon Voight in The Deliverance.
I like John Voight in Anaconda.
I was going to say that. So,
yeah, that might be about it for me. We'll see.
yeah,
So let's talk about some ratings.
let's do it.
I would love to hear your rating first.
I gave this film 3 stars.
Oh, I was just going to let you go off on that.
Oh, no, that's all I got.
I know you did because we have the same rating, and I
Yes,
also
we
went
did.
3 stars.
Nailed it.
Didn't want to upset you on that one.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're going to be talking about a lot of movies, and these ratings are going to kind of shift because 3 stars on one movie is going to completely outweigh 3 stars on another. I feel like we'll talk about another movie in the future that I gave 3.5 stars, and to that I think it's hard to say like, yeah, I like that movie a half star more than The Champ. I feel like I liked it a little bit more than that. So the range on this gets a little weird. But 3 stars to me feels pretty adequate because the chemistry between Beery and Cooper in this is phenomenal. They are very good together. There's a lot of great scenes in that specifically, and I think the writing in The Champ is good. It's just there's some things that keep that from feeling super connected. And again, for me personally, this is just myself. It's hard not to look at movies that I love like Warrior. Not that I love The Wrestler, but movies like The Wrestler, The Fighter, that clearly took a lot from movies like this that I think do some of those scenes a bit better. And you can't hold that against something like The Champ because it is like of its time.
Sure.
So that's something that I'm facing as well. So there's a chance it could be a little bit higher, but 3 stars felt about right for me.
Yeah, I think my big thing, I've talked many times about how I have this struggle with modern films, and I think a lot of that has to do with the visuals and the modern filmmaking. When I go back and I watch movies from this era, I find that I'm more attracted to style than I am story. And while I do enjoy this story, perhaps even more than the film that we'll be talking about next episode, there's a style that I appreciate more that doesn't really exist in this film. There are some tracking shots and some interesting camera movement moments, but it's nothing that really catapults this movie beyond a well-told story for me.
Yeah, I think in terms of what the camera is able to do in The Champ, the thing that kind of is the highlight for me is one of the first scenes in the movie where the Champ and Dink are running behind a car.
Yeah.
And the camera is just clearly mounted on the back of this car and is a one-shot filming or a one-shot scene of them like running towards the camera. And I thought this was done really well, especially since I know like it hasn't been easy to do mic work with this and like a moving camera. So I thought this was done really well, but it is also one of the first scenes of the movie and we don't see much like that afterwards.
Sure.
So you kind of forget about it by the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I wonder if I watch more King Vidor films, if I'll be able to like identify his style a little bit more and have a bigger appreciation for it. I've seen The Crowd, and that was another one where I liked the story more than I liked it visually.
Interesting. So, we'll see if that continues.
We will.
For double feature, I'm really excited about what I landed on here.
That's good, because yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go first.
Okay.
Because it's really not a double feature comparing it to the story or the performances or maybe the performance. Wallace Beery nominated for Best Actor for this film.
Right.
Also nominated was Frederick March for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Spoiler alert, they tied for the win this year. So it's kind of a cop-out, but I went with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde just so that you can see the two very different performances that took place this year that brought home a win for both of these actors.
It's so funny you say that because the way you were describing that, it almost sounded like you were going to say the two performances that we got out of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So
that's
the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of Academy Award wins.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Nailed it.
Look at that.
I watched that last night, though, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I didn't do that.
I just want to throw this out real quick.
Yeah.
Might be the best movie nominated this year.
Really?
It's really good.
I would like to go back and hey, maybe April 29th.
Maybe April 29th.
Who's
Stay
to say?
tuned for the Patreon watch party.
Or if we elect, because remember we allow voting in the polls on this in the Discord, maybe if people vote to watch a more modern movie, we can watch what I selected as my double feature. What I did was I looked at the relationship between Wallace Beery and Jackie Cooper in this and the idea of a father who is just trying to survive in their career and maybe has sidelined their relationship with their child and that reconnection with their child. And it reminded me a lot of a movie from Sofia Coppola in 2010 called Somewhere. Okay. This stars Stephen Dorff as an actor, kind of on the back end of his career, struggling to remain relevant, and his daughter, played by Elle Fanning. Pretty good movie.
Child actor.
Yeah, another child actor, exactly. And I really like Somewhere, but I do want to say that my favorite thing about Somewhere is that if you go and watch the trailer, this is one of my favorite trailers for a movie because there are very few lines that are actually said in it. It's a very Sofia Coppola thing to do, to have your trailer not feature a lot of lines. I think to the Priscilla trailer that came out a few years ago and how that was set to a certain song. Similarly, Somewhere is set to Julian Casablancas' I'll Try Anything Once. And I love this song so much, but it sets the tone perfectly for this movie. And I really do like Somewhere a lot. And I liked it a bit more than I liked The Champ, but specifically watching Wallace Beery and Jackie Cooper and the idea of struggling in your career and balancing that relationship with your child and where that can take you, I think Somewhere is a really good capstone. Or rather, end cap to that.
Yeah, no, I like that. Anytime I see Jackie Cooper on screen too, I think of the Fanning sisters, just because, especially Dakota Fanning, her acting style being so much more mature than her age, is very comparative to Jackie Cooper for me.
Yeah, it's funny how Dakota Fanning had such like a very popular career as a child actor, and I feel like Elle Fanning is popping off a lot as an adult.
Yeah,
when she was a child actress.
Dakota Fanning has something that she just got announced she'll be on, and I don't remember what it is.
I know that she just finalized. She was on that show that just ended, All Her Fault, on Peacock, but I don't know of any project she's on currently.
I'll have to look it up off pod.
Coraline herself.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, she's the voice of Coraline. Watch Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and watch Somewhere, 2011.
Do it.
2010, sorry.
Wow, you almost sent people to the wrong
really
movie.
Don't want you to watch the Sofia Coppola movie Somewhere from 2011.
Yeah,
2010's is way better.
Accurate. Yeah, so that's The Champ. Let us know if you have any thoughts on The Champ. Let me know about that character from another movie named Sponge. It's very important.
Remember, as long as you let us know by end of day, April 8th, of another character named Sponge in a movie, that we will get you that name change, buddy.
Yep. Yeah, 100% guaranteed. If you do have thoughts, though, or the answer to that trivia question, shoot us an email at outaopodcast@gmail.com. Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/outaopodcast for the watch party, the Discord, movie reviews, and more. And we'll rate and review the show. And I think that's it.
Sounds like it's it to me.
Sounds good. Next episode, we'll be covering the John Ford film Aerosmith, and I really enjoyed talking about that one.
Yeah, I got really jaded talking about movies.
Yeah,
for a while.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And make sure that you listen to every episode leading up to this, because I don't know if you're like me, I don't want to miss a thing. So make sure we're losing the plot on this one. It's called Aerosmith.
It is. That's going to do it for this episode. As always, I'm Kyle.
And I'm back in the saddle.
And we'll see you in the movies.